He's had some great games. Far has been a mainstay for Contenders for a while now. Even the backline and Ace of Spades for Tea Party showed up big in their last matchup despite their loss. And you see Revival with their new squad. They're playing Boger on the main tank and Harquist. We're going to be on this Pharah, going to be on that flex DPS role now to fill Mangachu's shoes.
So, going to be interesting to see how the new Revival takes this guys here. Artist again, big shoes to fill given Mangachu used to be the one in the skies. Now, just rocket spam coming in on both ends. Far getting hacked in. If anything's going to ground to Far, it's going to be that.
Right now, when you see this triple DPS matchup between the two, realistically, it's a mirror matchup. We're looking at a pure mirror matchup. So they do have Ace of Spades on that Orisa, so they're going to have to play a little bit slow if your Tea Party. As Apply already picking up Freedom. There is no Sombra on the field. A little bit less pressure now to worry about if you're Apply, if you're Eps.
Revival with a bit of an advantage here. Apply. Going to be looking for a bit more. Blub going to fall on the other side. And slowly but surely, Revival is just winning the poke battle here. 6-on-4. More presence on set point. Tea Party hanging in there at the Orisa. They're going to get the res off. And I mean, it's not one yet for Revival. The Orisa is giving plenty of room for Tea Party. Both Far going to be taken out of the sky. Makes things a little bit better for Revival. But again, Revival, they didn't get first cap and they're still dancing around as Freedom gets 2.
This is the fight. It's done with that last frag coming out on the paintbrush. Even with Manatee taking out Amadian, it's only Manatee left alive. And this is the power of the Orisa, is that Tea Party could afford to play slow. They don't need to poke for pressure because Ace of Spades creates all the room they need. Even though you would think, oh, Boger's on the Hammond, he's creating that space. It's actually Ace of Spades that's created because he can sit on point, and how does Revival dislodge him? Unless they focus him, which just creates the space for the rest of his DPS roster.
And it just reminds me of a conversation we had with Fact Fiction last night where he's talking about, yeah, Orisa's going to be dominant. Orisa, is on the rise, and you're seeing part of it here where, yeah, okay, you can run the ball, but Orisa gives you presence point. EMP, though, gonna come in here from Revival. Manitin setting up the stage. Tea Party, though. Bionade in from Epps. What a way to finish it out. Just means like Tea Party's gonna recover. Applies there to fish on out. Really well done by Epps.
With those combo plays coming out, with that EMP with the nade, finishing up there. It is already 54% already on that cap control for Tea Party, and they can move back in. They have the EMP, they have Supercharger. Both ults, which I would definitely rate over Mines in this current instance, because how do you find value? If you're Boger with the Mines, how do you find value other than trying to lock down Ace of Spades, maybe Amadian? Well, a Supercharger is going to be universally good.
Meanwhile, Amadian under pressure. Manitin gonna get the early pickoff. 6-on-5 for Revival. 6-on-5 doesn't mean much if you can't get people firmly on top point. Hardest, though, taking out his opposing number. And Revival, again, just picking apart Tea Party from the sides. And this time, I don't think Ace of Spades is going to live for long. It's just too many members of the team down. It lets Revival flood on in. And Revival going to be retaking.
Manton and Apply continually to find all this value for their flanks, for that pressure. And that's exactly what Revival need to be doing when you're running against a comp with the Orisa, and it's essentially a mirror, but besides the Orisa, obviously. You need to make space. You need to be poking. You need to be denying the value for Amadian, denying the value for Blub. And that is what they're doing.
Let's see the recon side come out here. As Revival looks to continue to lock things down. Apply. Decent shot coming up on the Sombra here. The Sombra goes around. But meanwhile, going to see the Supercharge invested. Far, though, takes 2 shots to the body. Down he goes. Hardest over the top. Uses Barrage, gets 2. And Revival tenuously holding on here, but they're losing people at the same time. And Tea Party actually going to get the flip. Revival unable to keep people on the point because they're running the ball versus the Orisa.
The ball is great for that early cap presence that we saw on that mid-fight, on that first fight for Control. But once you start retaking, once you start moving back in, that is where that Orisa starts having problems. Because you can't control space. You can move and take in space, but how do you effectively control it? How do you rotate? How do you deal with the mobility of Revival? And right now, Ace of Spades doesn't have a value. It doesn't really have an answer. And you see actually going to make the swap on to Hammond.
Nice shot from Hardest there, but not going to be quite close enough. Move forward. EMP in from Freedom, hits 3. Going to be grounding Hardest. Hardest, likely the #1 target here. But gonna have time to get healed on up. The effects of the EMP are gone. Nano Boost is going to be in. And Revival turning back their way. Far, though, the barrage in the back. Ends up with 2. So Tea Party working on 6v4. Hardest behind enemy lines here. Rest of Tea Party just going directly to point. And that's going to be Tea Party here on the reflip, but still time for Revival to bring it back.
Plenty of time for Revival to come back in. You see Apply actually making a swap onto Tracer. They might be committing to a full dive down for Revival. Nope, going to go back to Widow. Hoping, and actually, you see this right now. You see actually Hardest is going to be going Ashe. So they have this Ashe now instead of the Pharah. They're not going to be taking the Pharah duels with, and Apply does go Tracer. So they're going to be hoping for Manitin and for Hardest to be denying Pharah that space, while Apply and Boger just keep Amadian down, keep him from being able to get any shots.
Well, there's Bank Hardest being able to clip Far's wings from the other side, take him out of the sky. Recon side already up. Blub already out of the fight. Far under pressure. Really good opening here for Revival. They move back over to the point. I look the Hardest under pressure. Blub gonna be rezzed on up. Ace of Spades moving on in. Hardest right now getting forced back to a degree, looking for Far on the other side. Doesn't have a clean shot. Meanwhile, Fly on the ground. Looking for the healers in the back. Body and Ace of Spades dealing for the same time. Pulse Bomb almost charged on up. Meanwhile, Hardest takes down Far. Hardest gets both. The Far Mercy out of the sky as Hardest makes it 3.
Hardest makes it 3. They own point. They have mines. The EMP was used. And now it's just cleanup for the rest of Revival. None of Tea Party alive. What?
Oh,
Revival! No. Oh, no! Oh, no!
That can't happen.
That's a C9. That is a Charlie Niner of epic proportions. We're not even talking. This is no longer, we're taking a fight. We've won it. The enemy team dies and they can't touch. They're forced off the point. Revival owned the point. There was one person alive for Tea Party.
They were also at 99%. That was the round. That one should be in the green column right now, and it's not. That, if there's anything that could possibly tilt someone just off the earth entirely, it's what just happened there. Tea Party gets away with one, and now we'll see if they'll punish Revival as we head into the second stage.
That is what we call in the coaching business an oopsie. Quite a large oopsie there from Revival.
We call that 4 extra hours of VOD review and jogging around the practice facility.
That's maybe a couple of jumping jacks on top of the VOD review. So Revival going to be on the triple DPS, running Boger on that Hammond here again with the Blind Tracer. Be poking around in Tea Party. You see, they're playing this May Goats. They're playing the May Goats with Far on that May. They're going to look to try to take the point presence. And the problem here for May is that they need to find value. They need to get the freezes onto Boger if possible, because otherwise they're not going to really be able to catch anyone.
I like where Revival is positioned. So long as they win this first fight, it's very difficult for May to get value. Apply. Hang around. Going to get a Madi in with the Adamanitan. Already man advantage here, the Revival. And Revival, embarrassed spot. But again, Tea Party gets first cap. Tea Party, they're running compositions that allow them to get better positioning on the point in early cap. Revival, though, is just looking to win the fight after. And this time, it is working out for them. And they should be able to get the reflip with only about 15% gone.
If I'm Tea Party, I make the swap. Even though Eps goes down late, they have a res available, so they can res Eps. They're actually going to get a stagger kill Far and go down a little bit late. They should make the swap right now. Even though they have Blizzard, I don't think it's worth it. This is one of these instances where the H key is stronger than the Q key. You need something to deal with the mobility of Revival, to deal with the Farah, to deal with that Hammond.
And he's going to swap there. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my first question to you, is do you swap? And Far certainly thought so. You certainly thought so. And I agree. It's the right decision. Barrage, though, directly from the corner. And immediate death. Because D.Va exists, and D.Va can look at you and mitigate most of what just transpired. So Hardest out of the fight immediately. Does come at a cost of the D-Mech, but Freedom, already 50% of the game. Mech back in. Revival, again, we need to be giving this a bit of space as Hardest swaps.
Hardest swaps is going to go with that Ashe here again as Tea Party moving towards the point. The Valkyrie is done. Eps has that Transcendence. Going to be using it right now. Far, hack. Far's hack. They need to get Far.
He spades out of the fight. Both teams down to tank. Hardest, though, perfect positioning here, Nash. So many people to shoot at, and not even going to matter much in the end. Revival getting good pickoffs here. Tea Party still have a few members around, but
they're committing.
Hit the Nano. That's questionable. I mean, so long as Revival keeps someone on the point, I don't think this ends well for Tea Party, but Vanitin somehow falls to the Nano. D.Va goes a little bit too close to the sun, gets burned. And Revival now find themselves in more of a skirmishy fight, but they still have control.
Fly taking that trade control already, forcing the recall from Amadi. He's solo, gonna get healed now. But notice Far is down again. Hardest taking down 2, and with those 2 frags, there's no finishers. Because remember, for Tea Party, they're running a triple DPS composition, they're running that Sombra composition, and if they don't have an EMP to come out at some point, if they're not getting these crucial hacks, either of the 2, then how are they gonna find these frags?
It's gonna be very difficult. Also, you can't give an Ashe this much room. That's one of the few heroes in the game that if you give it space, the hero will just destroy you, pure and simple. Tea Party, down to their very final fight here. Revival at 99%. And Tea Party, they will touch the point.
They're on point here again, though the Manitin does have the EMP. The Bob is out, getting the zone, EMP out, catching 2, forcing beat. But with that, with the Bob, you see the position for Tea Party. This EMP is going to be great, only catches Eps.
Bob making plenty of room here. Though Tracer falling the other side, Ace of Spades, ganks in the back, builds a primal middle of the fight, doesn't even have to use it. Tea Party, they bully themselves back into the fight. And that's a little bit grim for Revival, given that they also used EMP.
Use EMP, use Bob, but I'm looking at Revival making these swaps right now. They're going goats. They're going 3-3, 100%.
Yep, Artist gonna swap.
They see right now, since Tea Party have also made the swap after those ults were used, they're on the Sombra goats. They're keeping Ace of Spades on the Winston Primal. But Revival are going to enter from lower.
They go in from the low end. Ace of Spades holding on. And have Primal in reserve once he takes a bit of damage here. Booger on a fire. Hardest getting low as well. Now here comes Ace of Spades. Once he gets two people in the court, goes for it. Both supports isolated here in the back. But while this is going on, Ace of Spades just gets burned down. Revival just turns on him, 6-on-4. And now Revival can bring this back over to that point. Remember, if Tea Party loses it, that's it. It's the round. It's looking like it's going to be the round.
Looking like it's going to be the round. The correct swap's coming up for Revival. Ace of Spades going way too deep to try to commit those frags. He thought, oh my gosh, nice little whale shot there. And Apply also from those early frags being the menace, because with Tea Party on Sombra Goats, you know who's unstoppable if in the right conditions? It's Brigitte. And Apply realized that and knows they can walk forward for free. There's no Brigitte to duel him, no Brigitte to stop his armor packs.
It's a lot of holding down left click is what we're seeing from Apply right now, as Tea Party has to throw themselves directly into the maze. And I think under better circumstances for Revival, that would have been the map. But it's not, because they didn't stand the objective back on round 1.
Costly mistakes, CP. Costly mistakes. The classic not touching the point after you've won the fight.
It's a classic fumbling the football in the red zone. Just not what you want to do. Giving points to the other team. But Revival did look much better in the last round than they did on the first. So, you know, chalk it up perhaps to just needing to warm up a bit. But again, they're going to be running out here with the Pharah, and then we're going to be seeing Pharah v Pharah, Widow v Widow.
So very much close to that mirror we saw on the first point for Busan. But this is a map where Widow is much stronger than any of the other points. The sightlines are incredible. The high ground is very accessible. And you're going to have to see how Tea Party are going to leverage the compositional differences. When it's a Winston versus the Hammond, you're not as mobile, but you do have better follow-up.
Fly right now, looking for an early shot. Amadian already low, saved by the Immortality Field. Immortality Field, though, gonna be out of it. Booger still in the back line. Amadian dealing with the Hammond pressure up front. And Booger has to be careful not to get too low here. Has to use shields and Apply. Takes well advantage of the distraction, already with 2. And so far, the ball-powered strategy coming in from Revival, doing some dividends.
Now it's going to be the Pharah will win the Pharaoh duel, but this is cleanup now for Revival. And for Tea Party, they're running this duo tank setup with Blub on the Batiste, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know. I guess their plan for Batiste was to do something there, maybe keep the Widow alive with Immortality Field. I don't know. It was questionable how that fit into the composition when the duo tank should be making the space, and they need those heals that they would need with an Ana or a Zen. So Blub makes the swap now, which makes this comp a lot more synergistic.
Ebbs with a little bit of fall through. 1 rocket, 1 Ana shot. It's good enough. Gets the resurrection out of Tea Party. And Revival holding fairly aggressive here for their setup. Hardest has to be careful down to 22 HP. Just barely gets out. But again, while you're looking the Pharah, you're not looking the Widow. Apply able to make well advantage with 2 off on the other side. And this is why Widow Pharah can be pretty good, even though it is a mirror.
Apply has been winning these Widow duels pretty consistently and having the space he needs as well. And the problem for Tea Party is continuously, when we look at this, it's not just Apply hitting shots. It's not just Hardest doing great in the Pharaoh duel. It's that Booger and Manitou are making so much space, and Tea Party's duo tanks, they have more value. They have more utility. They need to be locking down Apply and Hardest. They need to be locking it down instead of worrying about Booger.
Well, the problem that Tea Party has here is that Revival is about 60% to 0. They have way more ults in reserve. Going to be opening things up here with Booger's Mines. On the chase. Hardest is going to fall. It's the opening that Tea Party might need. It's going to force out the EMP from Revival. But Revival is doing the EMP while down players. Ep's already down, but Apply still up, making room. Picked off 2 essentially. Has an angry Winston in his face to deal with it. Getting healed up, pocketed all the while. Tea Party can move the battle over to the point while Revival is pushed back. But Revival has the ability to get back onto the point.
They will allow the flip to come out, but Revival can recontest. They're going to have Nano Barrage. They're getting into the Nano to Booger if they want. See, there's the Barrage coming out right now. Ace of Spades diving down from the Barrage.
Ace of Spades is getting deleted from this universe. So what just happened there? Apply now, going to the high ground. Decent sightlines, gets another. And Revival, even losing Hardest, still in a decent spot here. You're going to see Booger roll on in. Hardest rezzed back up. Bar not going to be able to really go to the sky here. Apply locking down the sideline. Spades back on in. Apply just barely able to get away. Ooh, the sleep. Buying Apply some crucial space as the rest of Revival goes on to the point.
And Ace of Spades, 1 HP, anti, taken down by Epps, who is there to follow up. And even though Pharah is able to take him down, as long as Booger lives here, they have EMP. They have what they need to win on point.
They're going to drop another EMP. Manitou building up pretty quickly. Far just walking around with no HP. Is there any sadder situation to find yourself in as Farah?
Maybe if you're hacked as Lucio. Getting hacked as Lucio, you're equally useless, except you're not even good at shooting things.
Yeah, that's actually fair. That is not a great position to be in. 95% for Revival. One fight away, Tea Party, pure desperation. Hopping back on in. Map 1 at stake. EP can be used. Strikes 3. Tea Party looking for fall through, but Far just poked on down. Paintbrush of all people, delivering the final blow. 6 on 5. Tea Party looking awfully low right now. Revival and firm control apply on the 76 swap, finds Ace. And this is looking all good for Revival. They bring things back. We don't have to talk about how they didn't get to the objective in round 1 because they came forward and dominated rounds 2 and 3. They take map 1.
So Boopasaurus going the way for Revival after that EMP, after the nano was invested. And when despite that one C9 that saw, the 1 point avoidance method that we saw from Revival earlier, Revival looked much more in control after that.
No, Tea Party is still delaying here, but
it's over. It's over.
This would be ridiculous. But yeah, it is over.
Almost as ridiculous as winning the fight and stepping off the point, but not that ridiculous. Just there. So that is first map going for Revival. And realistically, when I look at Tea Party's composition, especially for that last round of Busan, I have to think interesting choices. I have to think some interesting choices. Putting Blub onto the Batiste when you're running Pharah and a Widow, and you're running duo tank. So the synergy there wasn't really meshing for me, because if you're running a double tank setup, you're probably looking to lock down triple DPS, especially their Pharah and their Widow. But when you're running a Batiste, you don't really have the heals necessary to be mobile, unlike an Ana or a Zen. And then you're also running a Widow and a Pharah of your own. So, I mean, just really weird composition choice on that last map.
Also, just to even put it more simply, if you're running Batiste with Farah, Batiste, he has a healing grenade launcher. It's not really the easiest to hit a mid-air Farah with healing grenades in the middle of it, so...
Or you're diving tanks.
No, not in the least. And, you know, it's something that's easy to underrate, because you see Batiste played a lot of bunker sets where it's like, oh, cool, AoE healing? Totally fine. Healing people that are spread out with an arcing projectile, more difficult than you may think, even at the professional level. But, so I have to now ask you, we've seen Revival in their new form, with Hardest filling in for Megachu. How would you rate Hardest in his opening performance here?
I think he looked really good. I think, especially for someone that is, you know, it's sort of filling in the shoes of a projectile player, but with Megachu, being able to come up to the Ashe and have incredible Ashe performance is great, because that is the one criticism that people do leverage onto Megachu, is that despite his great Brigida, despite the fact that he has mastered a lot of the projectile heroes, is that more of, can he go into other roles? Can he get into hit scan? Can he play Genji? Stuff like that. Now, granted, we didn't see Genji played, but those are generally the criticisms that are leveraged against Megachu. Well, Hardest might be able to fill those roles, might be able to be more flexible than Megachu could have, even if he isn't necessarily at the same peak of projectile play.
I would argue that his hit scan already here looked more impressive than Megachu's hit scan play, because really he's much more of a projectile hero. It's why projectile heroes were, you know, his thing for the longest period of time. You know, I still think back to old Contenders memories of him, instead of shooting people at 76, like just tried to shoulder check people. He was DPaying people before DPay even was a thing. But you know, the reality is that it's probably for Revival they have to adapt, right? They're going to be more willing to run hit scan compositions, but their projectile game is going to be a little bit less impactful. However, the fact that they were able to come back from what was a really tough round 1 loss, certainly I think is promising for Revival, because it'd be very easy for other teams we know to have that happen and just, like I said, just blast off into orbit.
Yeah, they get tilted into the next solar system. And also, when we talk about the great performance that Hardest had, and Manitin and Bogram, really everyone on Revival for that map, despite that one unfortunate play, was Apply. Apply was winning the Widow duels every time. He was having the space he needed. Now, you could argue that's just because Bogra and Manitin were just giving him the space he needed to win those duels, rather than actually out-dueling Amadian every time. But either way, he was hitting the shots he needed to, he was cleaning up where they needed to, and Widow is an important playmaker. When you're in triple DPS, you need your Widow to get any picks, and Apply was.
But now we move on to Volsky Industries' second map of the series. And we'll see if Revival has made do here. And, you know, for Tea Party, you think about what we've seen from them, where I think back to week 1, and, you know, Amadian had some really impressive play back on week 1, but not quite the same level of success. I think also, I mean, the caliber of teams that Tea Party has been up against has been steadily increasing as time has went on. But, we'll see if Volskaya is a little bit better for Tea Party, because this is more of a map where if you have good positioning, you think back where, back in week 1, Amadian was able to use Zarya again, high ground, beam people down, and there's more opportunities for that sort of play here in Volskaya than you have on, really any control map.
Volskaya also allows you to, not in addition to those geometry controlling plays, like you talked about with Amadian we saw on Anubis, but it really just opens up the possibility a lot more in the current meta, how we've shifted to be a little bit more 3-3 centric or Sombra Goat centric in general, because ults are important in finishing Assault. They're very, very important.
So, going to be Revival here on the defense, Tea Party on the attack. And again, it's going to be a Pharah Widow Assault here. And Widow on Volskaya can be difficult at times to get good sight lines, but so far Tea Party getting quite a bit of room. They're going to get through the first area relatively easily against the 3-3 setup of Revival.
Yeah, that's really the crux of it, is that Revival are running 3-3. They don't have a Sombra, they don't have any other heroes of their own to deny this space other than Boger and Manitin, and they can't overcommit because they always have a risk of Freedom hacking them and then just getting farmed.
Well, already Epps is out of the fight. 6-on-5 coming in here for Tea Party. And this is sort of the bargain that you make for Tea Party, where they're going to get point A super quickly, but they're not running a composition that's very good at getting point B, so this is the trade-off. You go, do we want an easy point A experience at the cost of potentially having the swap and having a very bad ult economy to take the rest of point B?
Apply should be swapping Sombra, by the way, right now, ZP. Apply should be on Sombra. There's no reason to be playing Brigida. Actually, okay, they're going to be putting Hardest onto the Sombra, keeping Apply on the Brigida, and then swapping Epps to Moira. So they do make the swaps they need, but I'm surprised that they've decided to remove the Zarya and keep Apply on the Brigida.
So Tea Party can use Recon Sight as they move in. They're deciding not to swap. They're going for the one attempt on DPS before inevitably they have to swap. Hoping that Madian can find a miracle pickoff. But Revival is playing on the backhand side, but far off the Rockets. 2 already down. Blub down the back. Here comes Barrage from far. It's a decent one here so far. Might live to tell the tale. Gets the Moira on the other side, and Tea Party might be saying a very quick time here. Revival's in danger.
An unbelievably quick time. They get these early entry frags. They're moving on to point. Now Apply going to be swapping Tracer for the contest, but Tea Party still has EMP. The Valkyrie's out. Their mines are out. There's damage boosted. Mines everywhere. Well, not damage boosted mines, but damage boosted rockets on top of the mines.
Plenty of point control out here from Tea Party. That's going to be it. Tea Party. Super quick assault here where you don't see it happen all that often because, as we were talking about mid-cast, it's the bargain, right? Do you decide to get an easy point A or an easy point B? And sometimes you just say, why not both? And this was one of those times.
They got the best. They got the 2-for-1 sale. They got the 2-for-1 sale, just having that composition on first. And an interesting composition choice again from Revival, where I think right now in the context of when we look at these compositions is that we are in a shifting meta, even though there hasn't really been a huge balance patch necessarily put on. And we're still playing the same patch that we have been from the beginning. Teams have been realizing the value of the flexibility for various points and then integrating Sombra a lot more into these compositions. And Revival made that swap onto the Sombra to deal with the triple DPS. They got a Moira, so Epps was more survivable, though I could have argued for an Ana still. But the Brigida there in that comp was interesting considering that what does Apply do as Brigida? And the answer was he gets killed by Pharah. He gets picked because you're just a little shield baiting, sitting on the ground getting shot with rockets. And they couldn't lose those frags early. They needed Boger and Manitin to deny the space for Pharah because no one else really could. Because Hardest is just going to be looking to just deny, realistically, Ace of Spades in the back line.
All worked out for Tea Party. Now Revival, I mean, not unwinnable for Revival by any means. 6 minutes is certainly an intimidating time bank, but if they get in with 3-4 minutes left, they can turn it back around. But it's a much better start for Tea Party here, and we'll see what the answer for Revival is. Doubt it's going to be the Symmetra, but you never know. Manitin, they're running out with it. They're going with this, and they're taking the oft-hidden path here. It's a lot that you can take with the teleporter.
Again, Freedom has scouted it, so they do know that Revival's going to be taking this top, just moving to the right. And then Manitin probably swapping back, either going Sombra or D.Va. It's going to be D.Va. So full 3-3 for Revival. And they've put themselves in a position where they didn't have to deal with the rotation at all. They've removed that from the equation. Instead of having to enter the point here, take early damage, get worried about one of your backline members getting picked, they've actually just removed that. They're on the high ground now, and they can look to push towards the point or even take the Mega Pack room from Tea Party.
And I do like the intelligence of just swapping the Symmetra over back to the D.Va. I think that was a really cool play coming in here for Revival. And limiting that poke damage they take on the way in. Still get poked a little bit, but everyone right now still in spot to heal up. And oh, not anymore. Far. The Storm Arrow's going to connect. They take down Boger, and that makes things a lot tougher here for Revival, even if they get a tick on point, which is looking increasingly less likely.
They don't get it.
Tea Party, they just swarm them.
Tea Party deny it. I mean, you look at the actual tick, you look at the actual counter, it looks like it probably should have been a tick, but they must have stopped it perfectly at the end. And for all the fancy symmetric play for Revival there to stop the rotation to take or lose an early pick, they get picked early again. They don't get the rotation in time. They try to go to point and they get caught in the mini room rather than the mega. And they didn't really get any value from that. All they did was lose a minute off the clock and give ult charge to Tea Party, who now has EMP.
So Revival, they're going to be swapping to a much more DPS heavy setup. 3 DPS out here on the field, 1 tank. They look to Amadian. A little bit of pressure. Gank pocketed though, so it's not too bad. So on wins Widow duel on the other side. But Sombra pressure, Tracer pressure. Amadian, most wanted here out from Revival. Meanwhile, Freedom get to take down his counterpart on the other side, so this offense from Revival losing a lot of punching power.
Manton and Hardest were poking that back line, but Freedom just gets to the right click. They just gets that early hack, and people forget how quick that hack actually comes out. Comes out incredibly quick. A lot of people, you know, we've heard some personalities, perhaps Big Goose and Sure4 say, just run away from the hack. Just run away from it. And in a very joking manner, because you cannot run away from the hack, because it is extremely quick.
And when talking to Super about Sombra, you don't really hear anything intelligible. You just hear just the animalistic noises.
Yeah, it's not. There's not a lot of sapient thought that you see within there.
Not really. But okay, we have Revival. We have Hardest very far into the back line. The rest of Revival looking for a way in, and they're just gonna quickly go over to the right. So get through the first hurdle. No one catches an arrow to the dome here just yet. Now we're gonna see Boger leap on in, but Amadian there in the punish. 2 already down for Revival, and this is not the attack.
And Hardest has been slept, going to be taken out. Summerly finished on the ground there. And for Revival, it's getting grim. It's getting very grim. A minute left on the clock by the time they're going to respawn and get ready to re-enter the point. They have no ults other than the trance, which they must hold because of Freedom's EMP. And still, they're going to have to deal with the rest of the ults for Tea Party. They're going to deal with their position and finish out a fight, essentially a neutral fight, with no ults, with 0 ults against this.
Revival has to be hoping for some form of miracle. And, you know, miracle number 1 is going to be the EMP from Freedom not doing anything. Dragon Strike out, and already a pick-off for Tea Party. Far, just devastating. Amadian following through. Revival down to 4. And they have enough time to wait for reinforcements, but they're also at a big risk of getting staggered.
They can't lose anyone either. They can't lose anyone like that stagger you talked about. Blub is still playing Ana. Remember, has the nano to save any player he needs from the dive. And the question is, Epps is not even on Zen anymore. He swapped Moira. We won't even have a Tristan out on the field. He died with it. They have to enter this point with no ult, 0 ults to deal with the EMP, to deal with the nano, to deal with the follow-up from the nade.
At this point, they are essentially putting all in on hoping that Freedom just does not get a good EMP. But already they pick one. Tracer goes onto the point. This is a sacrifice. The EMP gonna hit both tanks, Boger and Manitin, just completely thrown to the side. This is looking like a very successful first point hold here from Tea Party. Need a little bit more. Manitin holding on here on the point far. Last few arrows coming on in. Gonna get the D-Mech. Looking for Epps on the other side. Epps gonna shift out, and already Tea Party just a little bit away. They get the Moira down. Revival though still floating on set point. Hardest coming back in. Paintbrush and Epps. No,
they don't touch again. Oh
no! Revival for subjectives. The war that is brewing within the series right now, because Revival almost had turned that.
You've heard of Dallas versus Fuel, but have you heard of Revival versus Cap touching the point at any time?
I mean, at some point, I feel like Jack's going to throw him a cease and desist saying, C9 is our trademark. You can't have it.
I think for Revival here, they were actually looking to bring back that fight too.
Yeah.
Paintbrush had made some hero plays. Epps had gotten a pick. Apply had built Blade against all that. They managed to survive and build Blade, but they get halted off the point. Paintbrush wasn't there because he was finishing up that frag onto Far. And when I look at Revival, I see a team that has mechanics, but currently no teamwork. No teamwork, very little cohesion, which, to be fair, they are in many ways a brand new team. They lost a lot of their key members. They just lost Megashu in addition to that. So they've had to rebuild entirely here with a whole different set of players. So there will be some of those problems, but the comp swaps, the idea is how they make it, because they spent nearly 2.5-3 minutes rotating around on first, and they were playing a dive composition for one of that. Why are you rotating around against the risk of a dive? You must dive. You must go. You're not even running anything to poke shield.
No, they took an incredibly long time heading on in there. And then the execution was sloppy. And then even when the execution goes well, just at some point, no one is calling out, hey, I'm on the point. Like, that just wasn't handled even a little bit. So we understand why it's happening to Revival, but the question is, can they fix those issues and still take the series?